Good evening. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Waterville City Council. We are at the Midday Cafe at the Mid-Maiden Technical Center. And before we get started, we will stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I didn't see that fancy flag thing on the screen this time. You get that,
I'm getting complacent.
First on the agenda, I have a disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there anybody here who feels they have a conflict of interest with the votes they'll take tonight?
I have a conflict with Resolution 190-2020, so I will be abstaining from that vote.
Yes, you do. Okay. Any other conflicts of interest? Seeing as none, we'll move right along. The approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? I will take a roll call, please.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council Oliveira?
Yes.
Council Mayu?
Yes.
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
Council Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
I'm going to make a motion to take all of the items on the agenda by title only.
Seconded.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council Oliveira?
Yes.
Council Mayu?
Yes.
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
Council Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, unfinished business, we have Order 173, 2020.
An order providing for approval of forfeiture.
Move to adopt.
Sorry. Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mike?
Seeing as none, I'll call for a roll call.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council Oliveira?
Yes.
Council Mayu?
Yes.
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
Council Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next is Order 174, 2020.
An order providing for approval of pipeline easement and right-of-way agreement.
Move to adopt. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing as none, I will ask for a roll call.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council Oliveira?
Yes.
Council Mayu?
Yes.
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
Council Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Order 180, 2020.
An order providing for acceptance of FAA Airport Improvement Program grant and issuance of notice to proceed.
Move to adopt. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council Oliveira?
Yes.
Council Mayu?
Yes.
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
Council Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Last under unfinished business, Order 181, 2020.
An order providing for acceptance and appropriation of 2020 Burn Justice Assistance Grant.
Move to adopt. Second.
Is there any discussion? Sarah, is that for the JAG grant?
Nope. For
Oh.
the Drip City.
Okay, great. I will ask for a roll call.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council Oliveira?
Yes.
Council Mayu?
Yes.
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
Council Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to new business, Resolution 184, 2020.
It's actually 183.
183, yes.
Thank you. A resolution providing for issuance of a victualer's license to Drip City LLC, doing business as Drip City Barcade.
Move to adopt. Second.
I see somebody's here to speak. Come on in.
How are y'all tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. So basically just applying for the victualler's license. The building that we're looking at is 129 Main Street. working with the building owner there to do some renovations and open up hopefully towards the end of this year.
So, Barcade, what is, can you tell us?
Barcade, trying to kind of give people my age something to go do, at night, in addition to having a drink or two. Old school retro games, a ping pong table, that kind of thing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, I am too.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
thank
doing
you.
this.
Which building is it?
It's on the corner of Main and Temple. Most recently would have been Sparrow's Consignment. I know it as a Subway.
Yeah, that's right.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yep.
All right, very good. Then, well, thank you very much. I'm sure there'll be no issues getting these through here tonight.
Perfect. You guys need anything else from me?
I don't think so.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right, ask for a roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Olivera?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Now it's Resolution 184, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a liquor license to Drip City LLC, doing business as Drip City Barcade.
Move to adopt. Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Olivera?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes. Counselor
Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
You're all approved, guys. Next is Resolution 185, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a victualer's license to Hezekiah Litsky, doing business as DON Soul Food Kitchen LLC.
Move to adopt. Second.
Any discussion? Anybody here from there? Doesn't look like. We'll ask for a roll call.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Olivera?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Bless you.
Now we have Ordinance 186, 2020.
An ordinance providing for enactment of an emergency powers ordinance.
Move to adopt. Second.
Mike or Bill, do you want to just give a quick summary or a primer on what this is for the public?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think as everyone is, William A. Lee, City Solicitor, I think as everyone is keenly aware, when we got hit with the pandemic in the late winter, it was somewhat chaotic in the world, and suddenly we wanted to be able to do something at the municipal level, but we didn't have anything in our charter dealing with emergency powers. We had no ordinances dealing with emergency powers, and we had people acted the best they could trying to protect the city, but we ran into some legal stumbling blocks. And after that, a couple of weeks there, I think I was in a conversation with Council Chair Thomas, with Mayor Isgro. I think Councilor Foss was in on one of those conversations, and we talked about the idea of, this has happened to us once, let's not let it happen again. At the appropriate time, let's consider adopting something, at least at the ordinance level, so that if we come upon some unexpected emergency, we can act quickly. So with that in mind, I looked at ordinances that existed in some charter provisions elsewhere, and the ordinance that Bangor had, I liked the best. It was streamlined and had limits on the authority, but in looking at it, I thought that's my own view, that there should be even more limits on authority. So I've drafted this two-page ordinance for your consideration. Essentially what it allows is the manager to make a declaration of emergency after consultation with the council chair, and grants the essentially rulemaking power to address whatever may arise. Now that's an enormous amount of power being granted to a single person who is not an elected official. So built into this are several things. First of all, that declaration cannot last for more than 5 days. It expires on its own unless the council renews it in some fashion. But secondly, also built into it is the ability of the council to call a meeting on 24 hours notice to could rescind, modify, affirm the declaration of emergency stated by the city manager. So even though there's a rather broad grant of authority to address a situation given to the city manager, that power can be taken away or modified very, very quickly, because ultimately the decision-making authority should rest with the council. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, what if we had some type of a railroad derailment that produced contamination? And you know, you say, well, it hasn't happened. Yeah, well, a pandemic hadn't happened up until several months ago either. Who knows what it would be? There might be the need to be able to act very quickly. So that's what this ordinance is designed to do. But at the same time, just as in everywhere else in our governmental system, it's so important to have a check on whoever holds power. And in this case, it allows the manager, in consultation with the council chair, and if the council chair is not available, in consultation with the mayor, to come up with some rules very quickly, but at the same time the council, if it doesn't like them, can turn around and can change that very, very shortly thereafter. So that's the purpose behind this. I hope it's something that would never be used. And until a few months ago, I wouldn't have imagined the situation that we faced back in March. And who's to say what the next one would be? Who knows? So that's the idea behind it.
I appreciate the work. I really like the way that it's written, because there's really not the fear of too much power in any one single person.
Right.
Because the manager is going to be able to do what he's going to do. He has to consult with the council chair. The mayor can call a meeting to bring the council together to put a check on that if he feels to. The council itself can call a meeting if they feel that there's need to call in to call any of it in question. So I feel like the responsibility is actually spread around quite evenly in a way that I wouldn't have probably come up with myself, but I'm surprisingly pleased with the way you did it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Councilor.
Thank you for doing this, because we desperately needed it, as we've all learned through this COVID. The one, and I agree with the mayor for the most part, the one thing that I have a hiccup on is the initiation of the emergency, allowing, and I'm not picking on you, Eric, this is just my look at it.
Hopefully I won't be the chair next time there's
The initiation, I like the checks and balances, how we can knock those powers down, because I think we've learned that from what we're all going through. The initiation is my hiccup. And I would like to put a motion forward to say that the chair and the mayor come together and give city manager the proclamation or the issue to proclamation. I just think that ball rolling should be between these two seats, not that one seat. Again, I'm not picking on Eric. It's just, I'd like to see that broadened out. So I'd like to, so I won't put that on the table, that we make it, I'm gonna make a motion that we change that the chair of the city council and the mayor, after consultation with the city chair and the mayor, to issue a proclamation of emergency. Then after that, the rest of it's great. I like it. Gone a couple of different scenarios through my head, but that's my motion.
And may I?
Absolutely.
Sure. I might, if we do that, I might need to do a.
Is there a second on that motion?
right before we discuss.
There
it.
is.
Oh, okay.
There is.
I might want to, if we do that, I might want to change a little bit of the wording down a couple of sentences thereafter, because there's some language about if the manager's not available, the mayor after consultation. So if you want to, and I would prefer to have a few minutes to draft that, so we don't just make an amendment here and then go, oh, wait a minute, we said this here, 3 sentences later, that kind of contradicts, or we have an unanswered question. But I think your basic concept is you'd like to have the manager, require the manager to consult with both the council chair and the mayor.
Correct.
And I can work that in, but I might have to change a little bit of language farther down. So if it's okay, give me a little time to do that. I mean, you can, if you want to do a first reading tonight, you can, and I will get that language to you all well ahead of time.
All right, so he's withdrawn that motion for tonight, so that way you have time to do that. The only other question I have is on the fines. It says the fine cannot be suspended. That means nobody has the power if somebody breaks the order and then it's felt later that there shouldn't have been an emergency, or you never know how these things go. I don't think there should be any fine. I don't think there should ever be a fine that doesn't have some way to get rid of it if people feel it's unjust.
Well, you have a good point. Do understand the fine could only be something entered by a court.
Oh.
So we may have a violation, we never, and decide, oh, yeah, fine. They understand now, they didn't the first time. There's no fine until a court orders a fine. So we'd have to actually prosecute the person. And the reason it says cannot be suspended, you notice it's a range of 100 to 500. There's sometimes been a problem there with ordinances. They will have a listing of what a fine will be, and the people, when they drafted it, expected if it goes to court that's what the fine would be. But unless you say it can't be suspended, a judge could just go ahead and suspend the whole thing. And in this instance, the minimum is 100, the maximum is 500. What that's saying is a judge cannot fine less than 100. It doesn't require, the judge could impose a $500 fine and suspend, well, actually, what the judge would, no, I was going to say, and suspend part of it. No, the judge could just say $100 fine, but it would have to be that. And if the judge decided it was 200, it would have to be that. It would just take that discretion out. There have been some problems with enforcement of municipal ordinances of different types, and so that's why that language is there. But whether this ever goes to court or not, the administration would decide whether some violation was worth a prosecution.
And just to refresh my memory, thinking back, these are all civil issues, so the police would not be out like being the enforcer of these kinds of things. If the city manager were to come out and say, well, you can't do this or you can't do that, it's not actually falling under criminal code. The police can't go out and...
Well, the police do enforce civil violations.
But how does that line up with state law? We have the power to just more, like a good example. Mike says as an emergency, Mike says, if you don't wear a mask when you're mowing your lawn, then the police aren't going to do it.
Then there'll be a council meeting 24 hours later.
Right.
That's what there would be.
Right. I realize it's kind of like an absurd thing, but I'm trying to use something blatantly absurd to prove the point. Like, the police aren't going to come out in my house and be like, well, you're in violation of not wearing a mask. You got to stop mowing the lawn right now.
Yeah. Well, I think
if we're handing over those kinds of powers, this thing's dead on arrival. Right.
Well, first of all, if there was some emergency rule promulgated by a city manager which is disliked, it will be over with very quickly. Mm-hmm. But let's say, for example, some type of extreme public unrest, and it was decided that there had to be a curfew, for example. Yep. Okay? Curfew's adopted 8 o'clock at night. Then the police department would be enforcing that curfew. Violation of it is civil, not criminal, but the police department would be authorized to enforce it. And if you thought that curfew was ridiculous, then 24 hours later there's going to be a city council meeting, so it would be a curfew in effect for one day.
In light of the fact that every day we turn on our social media and TV and see riots and statue toppling, I think I'm okay with that. I think I'll leave it as is.
Yep.
I appreciate the explanation. You convinced me.
Okay.
Nick, can I say?
Yes.
Well, to Councilor Foss's point, the language about initiation of the emergency, I mean, it just says after consultation. It doesn't say the city manager needs approval.
Correct.
And
Or
so,
else you could have a stalemate and not be able to do anything.
well, and so maybe this isn't even possible, but my mind went to that, not to rehash what happened, but in this case, the mayor and I sort of agreed that there should be an emergency, and the city manager did not. And so I wonder if it's legal possible to say that if two of the three people, the council chair, the mayor, or the city manager, if any two of those three agree that there should be an emergency declared, that would initiate the emergency, and then the council could at that point step in.
Yeah, I could go with that.
And this may surprise some folks, having lived through it, I actually would like to rescind whatever abilities I thought I had. I actually don't want to give myself more power. Looking in retrospect, I think there was a bit, we could have done things very differently, and this is one where I'm going to say I don't want to give myself the powers that I thought I should have had at that point. So I would disagree with that. I think there should be, if anything, there should be more consensus cooked in. But I think this bakes it all in the cake here, because I think this gives the council or the mayor the ability to turn right around and call an emergency 24 hours later and put brakes on things.
What if the council itself wants to declare the emergency? Would this negate the council's ability to declare the emergency without agreement from the city manager?
I see you, Councilor Frankie. I'll get to you right after Eric, so you don't have to hold on.
Well, back when all this came up, we did create a new ordinance which allows the council to declare, to have an emergency meeting on 24 hours notice anyway. So if for some reason the manager wasn't inclined to think that there should be an emergency declared, and the council wanted to declare one on 24 hours notice, it would be able to. You know, in reality, of course, if something like this comes up, there's going to be talking. People are going to get together and talk, assuming that they're available as quickly as possible. Because you notice the way this is written, if it turns out that the council chair is off on a camping trip, and the mayor is not available, if it's not feasible, the manager can go ahead and declare it. He has to try to have a conversation with the council chair and the mayor if the council chair is not available. But under some circumstances, the manager alone would be able to do that. However, if that happened, again, on 24 hours notice, council can say, hey, yep, there's an emergency, but we're going to change your powers in the following manner. And that would minimize the chance of some extremely unpopular disruption or action.
Absolutely.
Councilor Frankie?
Well, I just wonder, Attorney Lee, how you square your proposal with Article 4, Section 9 of the Charter, which authorizes the council to have an emergency meeting and declare an emergency, not the city manager.
I don't think one negates the other. In other words, that power is in the Charter to declare an emergency. This is allowing somebody else to also, at least on a very short-term basis, declare an emergency. So I don't see them as being in conflict. I see them as being complementary. Does that help?
Yeah.
Basically gives the city manager an opportunity to fill that 24-hour gap, because obviously, and I mean, in this case, it wasn't an emergency that required immediate action, but in other cases, it could be an emergency that requires immediate decisions, and you don't have 24 hours to wait for the council to have a meeting and declare an emergency. And so the city manager may need to act in the interim before the council can step in and affirm his decision.
Sure, and while fortunately here in central Maine we don't have the extremes of weather that generally we don't, that exist in other parts of the country, but that doesn't mean we're immune from it. Imagine if we actually got hit square by a hurricane, or if we had, look what happened in the Midwest the other day with those thunderstorms with 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Right.
You know, if we were met with something like that, you could have a breakdown of everything all at once, and somebody would have to act very quickly, and hopefully the council would then be able to convene very shortly thereafter to make any changes it felt was necessary.
Well, I would be a lot more comfortable, Attorney Lee, if you would, while you're doing your other revisions, if you would take a look at how to include language in the emergency ordinance that refers back to Article 4 and provides a mechanism for the two to actually work together.
Be happy to take a look at it. What I put together is to give you something to look at, see what you like. If there's something you think should be changed, obviously, to be able to do that. But to give you a pretty detailed framework as a starting point, not
Right.
necessarily as an ending point.
And we don't want to neuter it and bring it right back to then just throwing it back to the council, because that's already there. I'm going to go to Councilor Morris, Councilor Foss, and Councilor Thomas before we end debate.
Rick, I understand what you're saying, like, but I mean, and I like it the way that it is, and I like the way the hierarchy in which it's written as now, just from the simple fact that we're dealing with whatever that emergency is, and time is of the essence, and trying to get, now we're adding to get another person on the phone, which we might not have the time to do. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think there's plenty of layers here that, you know, again, within 24 hours, like Bill has said numerous times, we can override anything that whoever the chair and the city manager is come up with and determine this is an emergency, or we can decide it's not an emergency, or any steps will be gone in 24 hours, or if this emergency happens at night, then it'll be less than 24 hours. I think the more people that we add in the checklist that we have to go through will make it a little bit more challenging to actually establish that fact that we're just calling this an emergency, and
Right.
now let's go ahead and start doing things, you know?
Councilor Foss?
So I guess at this point, I think a motion to table until next council meeting to give Mr. Lee enough time to do what I would think would be a revision B, if we brought a revision A and a revision B to council, so that we could see what that looked like, and not, for lack of a better term, knee jerk this, trying to nail this all down right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that way we can take a step back.
Well, isn't revision B just adding a layer of communication?
Yep.
Okay.
I just have one.
I mean,
Councilor.
I think the last thing for me would be to cover our bases. What is the chain of command at the city? So if the city manager becomes incapacitated, who's next in command? I don't know if we have that in anywhere.
We don't.
And,
Should be the mayor.
and,
And I won't even be him, so I can say this without prejudice.
So I don't know if we need to add some sort of language like of what the chain of command is in the city, who's considered, because there is no assistant city manager.
Right.
So who's considered second in command if there was an emergency and the city manager was incapacitated and somebody else needed to have the ability to step into that role.
Would you be interested then in language that would say that if the city manager is not available, it would be for example, the council chair that would be able to declare the emergency?
I'd almost feel more comfortable with a city employee as
Or
long
his
as there's a
designee or
clearly
something.
defined chain of command, which perhaps we need to come up with anyway.
Yeah.
When,
Yeah.
when I'm gone for any extended period of time, I always appoint Joe Massey, the police chief, as my designee. So you could say in that very first line, the city manager or his or her designee.
Right, but there would have to be a designee in advance, because if you were incapacitated, you wouldn't be able to designate.
But I don't know that needs
Oh.
to be written in this, because, I mean, you know, I think that's I mean, it's a great call out, and but I don't think that it needs to be put in this, because this is an emergency powers ordinance, so we're gonna assume that, you know, when this emergency happens, Mike's in good health, or the city manager's in good health at that point.
Right.
But, you know,
That'll be done.
on the off chance that, you know.
I like the idea of empowering the police chief. Councilor Frankie, and then we're going to end council debate after this. I think. Well, actually, has there been an official motion to table?
Table. Motion made.
Would you
I'll
mind?
second the table
Absolutely.
motion.
Okay.
That makes that easy. Yep.
Can I get a roll call on the motion to table?
So we're done with comment?
Did we want to
I
let
want
the
to ask a
public
question
comment?
before we end, if that's okay.
You can ask a question.
Bill, in termination of emergency, paragraph B, it's not clear in the language here. It says, "No state of emergency may continue for longer than 5 calendar days unless renewed by the council." So it sounds to me, when I read that on its face, that every 5 days the council would have to renew the emergency. But maybe I'm too literal. But it might be more clear if we put, "No state of emergency called by the city manager may continue for longer than 5 days."
That's the way I read it, but if you think for clarification that it would be easy enough to add those words. I mean,
It just
'cause this-
seems like it could be interpreted that every 5 days they have to renew the emergency order until they want to terminate it.
Well, when it says the state of emergency, it's referring to what's up above, and what's up above is the city
Right.
manager calling the emergency, not the council having decided on its own to have an emergency meeting and passing something.
Well, and once the council has stepped in, it would be governed by the language in the charter referring to the council declaring a state of emergency.
So there's a motion on the floor to table. I would say, Patty, if you have language, you can just email that over to Bill.
Right.
There's a second. Could I get a roll call on the motion to table?
Counselor Morris?
No.
Counselor Oliveira?
This is to table.
You were gone.
Okay,
This
yeah,
is
I'm sorry. I just walked in. Is this to table it for next time?
to the next meeting, yeah.
Okay, yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes,
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor and 1 opposed.
And if I may,
Yes.
Patty, I just wrote in some language to just, so that 2B would state, "No state of emergency declared by the city manager may continue." That
Right.
way, there's no question.
Right.
I mean,
Thank
why
you.
not?
Why not?
Sure. And then I'll try to, we have to be careful with, you start adding people and how many get consulted, you can get all sorts of combinations. You got 3 people, what if this one's absent? Okay, then what if that one's absent? Who consults with whom? And it can turn into a,
Well, I wonder if as a separate action, we should establish a chain of command for the city.
I do like that, but in the sake of not redebating this whole thing right now,
right, 'cause that something could be
as a separate
established.
item.
Yeah, okay. And I'll try to come up with, so you've got this proposal, I'll try to come up with some language for an alternate, try to circulate it ahead of time, get some feedback to me, and that way, if you say, no, I don't like it, I'll try for something else.
Great. Next is Resolution 187, 2020.
A resolution providing for support of plan for collaboration between Waterville Fire Department and Delta Ambulance.
move to adopt.
Second. And is there any discussion on this tonight? Counselor Frankie?
I just want to, I support working together with other entities in the area, and collaboration is excellent. I do want to note that in spite of the assurances by the chief that this will be revenue neutral, I expect that when we get to budget season next year, that there will be an increased cost for the fire department based on this collaboration. Nevertheless, it's something that needs to be done to protect the population of the city, so I support it.
Any other commentary? Okay. Anybody from the public? I imagine Sarah's really probably trying to coordinate them so they come up before.
I think so.
Try to give it a sec. All right, I think we're ready for a roll call on this
Do you want
one.
me to ask Sarah if anyone wants to speak, or?
Well, I just put it over the speaker and it's been a minute, so I think we're good.
Okay. Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes,
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, thank you. Next is Resolution 188, 2020.
A resolution providing for purchase of boiler for Waterville Fire Department.
Move to adopt.
Second.
This was a long time coming, huh? Let's remind everybody, Mike, what was the rate we just got our bond at?
The rate, 1.34%.
Yeah, I think that's important for the public to hear. This is an item that was included in that bond, and when we had a lot of those discussions during budget season, just for public awareness, the rate that we actually got on that money was 1.34. So really unheard of, and I think we're all very happy that
Almost a full point less than when we borrowed just a year ago.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Chief, I see you at the microphone. Did you want to make a statement?
I did. I just wanted to make sure that the council got a copy of the information that I provided, because we are requesting a waiver of bid process. So I just wanted to make sure that we're following the ordinance, and I'm providing you with actual information to make sure that we can waive that process.
Yeah, I think it's, the language is in there, and I think we vote on it tonight will be good. Thank you. And Patty, I think we're ready for a roll call.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Olivera,
Yes.
Council Mayu,
Yes.
Council Foss,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on, Resolution 189, 2020.
A resolution providing for approval of an operating agreement.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Mike?
Quick explanation.
Yeah.
For many years, Wiggins Airways has provided the transport for all UPS packages coming in and going out. And UPS now has hired freight runners to do that for them. We never really had a formal agreement with Wiggins in the past, so Randy has looked at what other airports have done and suggesting this agreement. I know that Bill has looked at it, and so this gives us, I think, just a better working relationship, contractual relationship with this company that's going to be using our airport every day. We were receiving $1,200 a month from Wiggins, and so this provides for the $1,500 a month fee.
Okay.
Basically, they come in, park their plane on the ramp, unload, leave the plane there until at night they load it up and fly back to, I think it's Manchester, New Hampshire, I could be wrong, but they fly back, come back the next morning. That's the routine.
Sounds great.
Okay. Go around. I think we're ready for a roll call.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Olivera,
Yes.
Council Mayu,
Yes.
Council Foss,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next is Resolution 190, 2020.
A resolution providing for appointment of a search committee.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Mike, the only questions I have, when it says 2 to 3 members of the public, who will be involved in picking those?
Well, the council decides who's going to be on this search committee. All I did was just provide a couple of suggestions, but really, it's you folks that decide who's on this committee. Again, the process, as I understood it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that sees it differently, is that MMA, that was hired to coordinate the search, would review the 70 applications that we received, whittle that number down to something a lot more manageable. I don't know if that's 25 or 30, whatever. Comes back to this search committee and says, out of the 70, here are the ones that I think really deserve further notice. That search committee then takes it upon themselves to boil down those applications to a number that's manageable for the city council to interview later. That's in simplified terms, that's what I understood the process was going to be. It's your decision entirely on how you want to manage it. But at the beginning, I think the council made it clear that they wanted to do the final interviewing. That's what I understood.
Yeah, and
So if that's the case, I think this search committee just helps to narrow the field down to the final, whatever, 2, 3, 6, 8. There's no magic number.
Councilor Frankie, I see your hand up.
Yes, I think Mike has succinctly described the process. What I would like to suggest to you, Mayor, is that you ask us to have a special meeting next Tuesday. And now that the public knows that we're creating a committee, that will give them the opportunity to express interest, anybody who might be on the committee. And if that's all we talk about at the meeting, it should be relatively short. We can get the committee selected and move on to the process of winnowing out the applicants down to a manageable level that we can make our final choice from.
I will take that under advisement. Councilor Frost?
I would like to add Kathy Weeks as one of the members of the public for consideration. Over the years that I've been coming to council and now sit here, she's been an integral part of council meetings and has a vast knowledge that I think we should tap.
Yeah, well, I think the only reason I just asked, and I appreciate that there's members of the public, but it says 2 to 3 members of the public, but then underneath that, it actually lists Kim Lindloff and Bill Lee as 2 of them, where Bill Lee, which I think his involvement is warranted, he's a city attorney. I think he should be involved as a city attorney, as someone who's going to be working with the city manager, not as counting as one of the members of the public, because there's going to be an inherent bias to point of view of that decision. Kim Lindloff also is not really a member of the public. She doesn't live in Waterville.
Right.
She is the CEO of the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has certainly its own agenda that does not always, sometimes it lines up with the view of residents of the city of Waterville, sometimes it doesn't. They're involved in a whole host of things outside of the normal scope of business. Now they're into quite a few different things that are somewhat business unrelated. So again, don't totally object to Kim. I just don't know that she counts as one of the general members of the public. That's my concern on that, is that we're pre-selecting 2 of them who, while their involvement may be a good thing and might and they should be added, I think that there still should be 2 like generic members of the public,
Right.
interested citizens who maybe come from different points of view as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think in defense of Mike, I mean, I think this was just his recommendation. I don't think this was the final list.
Yeah, no, he told me that.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, but I agree 100% that we should have, members of the public should be, common members of the public, and they should be able to have a say in reviewing these applications.
Yeah. It just gives a different perspective, I think.
It does, absolutely.
I listed Bill in that category because he made it clear to me that if he is to attend, which he very much would like to, it wouldn't be as paid city attorney, it'd be as a taxpayer. So I think very, very, very important that Bill be involved. Other very key people, just so if I can put my 2 cents in right now, this woman sitting beside me knows as well as anyone, she and Sarah, what I do every day. So those are 2 very key people to help you later in deciding who do you think fits best.
I agree with kind of the whole thing. I hope we can get, and I think Bill should be there. I just hope we can get 2 to 3 real members of the public, right. And if Bill's one of them, that's great. I just don't know that the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce is a generic member who doesn't live in Waterville. Is a generic member of the public.
I agree. Right.
Yeah. Makes sense. 'Cause, 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 ' So if we pass this, are we passing it accepting this list, or are we saying we're going to come back?
I assumed you'd probably add some names to this list tonight, but, you know, Council Franklin makes a good point about it giving you time to come up with a list between now and Tuesday.
Yeah, because the public hasn't really had a chance to figure this out, and I think a lot of the counselors that may have people in mind haven't had an opportunity to.
Right. I've had a few people reach out to me, so,
Yeah.
about it, so.
Counselor Oliveira, I see you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna second Frankie's motion to table this for next meeting, so we can really get the public involved and we can really get a committee going next meeting.
Well, I think this says attached as a suggested timeline with possible committee members. If we pass this tonight, we're authorizing the creation of the committee, but not necessarily selecting its membership. Is that accurate? Or could I just line item veto something so we had to? I mean, I don't think that attachment is part of the resolution, because the resolution actually says possible. Attached is a suggested timeline
right.
along with possible commitment. It doesn't say we're committing to these members.
Well, if I may, I would be concerned about a meeting next week because I'm not sure about the availability of this room.
I'm not going to call a special meeting next
Okay,
week.
so that, just to be aware of that. And the second thing is if we solicit members for the committee, we meet again September 1st. The timeline to start reviewing the resumes is August through September, so I don't know if that puts it behind to wait a couple weeks.
That's one concern. The other concern I would just note is having a group so big that coordinating a schedule for 15 people to meet to review 30 applications is going to be a difficult chore.
Well, I mean, I don't think the number changes. I think it's just the people change. Like, I think that's it. I don't think we're looking to add, a 70 group person, committee here. But I think that the number of people and who you select, like, you can make arguments for every department head in the city. They're all very smart and they all offer very different things. So you could make an argument for or against every single person and not come out in the real here like they would all be great choices. So we just have to sit down and figure out who is the best choice. And I think that it is important that we have members of the public that are actual taxpayers that are going to have an opportunity to have a voice.
Yep.
And who we interview as a council as a whole. I think that's important. So I don't like I mean, right to your point, Matt, you're right. We can approve this, and I don't know who needs to approve the final list.
Well, I think council as a whole should approve the final list. If you're ready to do that tonight, or
No.
on the meeting of the next meeting.
So just wait till the next meeting.
Right, the council still needs to approve whatever the membership is, so either way, you're delaying actually starting to do anything until the council approves the slate of
Well, we
finalists.
got Kathy Weeks for one. Anybody else have somebody who they know would want to be involved?
Well, I know Paula Raymond reached out to me, and I should reach out to you.
There we
Mike.
go. We got Kathy and Paula. Let's put them on.
Huh?
Done.
Hello.
Hi, Flavia. Yeah.
I would like to suggest Jay to be on one of the public since he's running for mayor. So I would really think he would have an input in there.
Oh, we don't want to hear from him. No.
Not a bad idea. Councilor Frankie?
We've got a motion to table at the moment, and we're talking about the issue itself. I think we should have a vote on the motion to table.
Was there a second?
There was no second.
Was there a second on
Yes, it was a second. I second that.
that? Okay. Is there a roll call on the table?
So this is a motion to
Or
table
do you want to discuss tabling it?
to the next meeting.
Well, I guess if we vote on the table and the vote is negative, and then we have a discussion, then we can just simply vote. We can just make another amendment to table it again, right?
Yeah.
So.
Was his motion to table till a special meeting next week, though?
There's not going to be a special meeting, so I'm not calling one.
I'm asking what his motion was, though.
That's what the context of what he said, yes.
Councilor Frankie, is your motion just to defer to the next meeting?
The motion is to table to the next meeting. I recommend that we have a special meeting that's devoted only to the selection of the city manager, because it is the most important thing, and including all the time we spent with the budget, it's the most important thing that we're going to do as a council this year. It bears careful consideration, not a rush to judgment as some councilors are proposing this evening.
Well,
Okay.
I disagree with that, but I don't think that we're making a decision to choose the city manager next week. So this is a committee just to put together the committee that's going to review these 70 applications and whittle it down to a number that we're then going to interview. So I don't think it's a rush to do anything other than put a list of 10 to 12 people on a piece of paper that are going to review these 70 applications.
And I do, just for those who might be watching at home or in the next room, it is important to know too that as our subcommittee has been meeting, there is going to be special meetings that are,
Right.
once we start picking live candidates of who we think should be recommended, there will be special meetings for the public to interact, for the council to interact with those candidates. So those meetings will definitely happen. I guess I'm going to agree with Councilor Morris here that this is just forming a committee. If it waits an additional week and is added on another agenda, I don't think that's a huge deal. I mean, we have not a large number of people who tend to be actively interested and involved on a regular basis that are residents who are probably I think the council can come up with a reasonable mix of people from different walks of life that will fit the bill for that pretty easy. So I don't think it's going to take all night to do that, especially if we just put it out there and ask people to send an email. You get it in and the council can pick it next time. I mean, I don't think we're going to have a parade of 20 people out the door. So, anybody else that want to discuss tabling? Councilor Frankie, and then we'll take a vote.
Well, I would point out to you, Nick, that I've already been contacted by 6 different people who would like to be on the committee. If you multiply that by the other 5 councilors, that's 30 people. So it could actually be a meeting that takes quite a while for us to winnow it down. I really think it needs careful consideration.
Well, I think
We picked the Charter Commission pretty quickly.
Yeah, we picked the Charter Commission pretty quickly, and I think it's going to, with all due respect, I certainly hope the council picks people who come from different points of view, so you're not just pointing one side. Anyway, I think we're ready to move on to a vote on the tabling.
Councilor Morris?
No.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councilor Mayu?
No.
That was a no.
Yes. Right.
Councilor Foss?
No.
Councilor Frankie?
Yes,
Am I missing somebody?
Well, Eric-
Five,
Eric's
5
out,
to,
so.
2 to 3.
Yep.
Fails.
He's abstaining.
But Eric's,
One
yeah,
abstain.
Eric's,
Abstain.
yeah, abstain.
Okay, so
All in
many
good
things I
practice
want to
here.
say.
We're all above the board here. I had that moment too. I'm like, why isn't Eric abstaining?
I'm sorry, what
Okay.
was the final vote?
2 to 3 was the final vote to table.
All right. So I think we pass it as is, and there can be some names put forward and selected by next week.
I think that's reasonable.
Yep.
September 1st.
Oh yeah, it's September 1st.
Yeah.
So now we need to vote on the actual,
You
Yes.
could just leave the names of the members of the public off and act on that at a future.
Right. So can we?
Amend it?
I would like if somebody could put forward a motion to amend leaving the basically striking Kim Lindloff off there and leaving a couple spots open for members of the public.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I'll take a roll call on that amendment.
okay, so amend to remove Ken Lindloff. Okay. Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councilor Mayu?
Yes. Yes.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
I think we're still in discussion. I had a amendment to offer to the list as well.
This is just. a
Right,
vote-
this is for this
just a
particular
vote on the
amendment.
amendment. You're just voting on.
Just to strike off the one person?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll vote for yes for that.
Counselor Thomas is abstaining, so the vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, Counselor Frankie, you're up.
I would like to strike off Bobby Joe Green. I think having 4 city officials on the committee is heavily weights it in favor of city personnel. I don't think that that's fair, and so that's why I suggest that we strike Bobby Joe off, leaving just the chief, Sarah, and Patty.
I'll second that.
Any discussion before we need to take a roll call on that?
I got a question. And what's the city councils that's sitting on it?
Counselor Morris and Counselor Frankie.
I would like to sit on it as well.
I'll add that to my amendment that we add Flavia to the committee as well as striking Bobby Joe.
So you're gonna have half of the sitting council on there?
The city council is going to have to make the final decision eventually. It makes sense to have enough councilors on the committee to be able to present a group that is going to be acceptable to the whole council.
I'm going to rescind my second on that, with that. I mean, no, I'm going to rescind my second on that. If he's going to add that, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second on, is there now a second on, hang on. There's now no motion on the floor because he just changed it, so he needs a second on the motion. Seeing as there's no second, that motion dies.
Just to be
To
clear,
which
like-
motion? What is the motion that you're asking for a second for?
Well,
Because there's been so many motions out there. Like, which motion are you talking about right now?
I had moved to strike Bobby Joe and add Flavia to the list.
Yes, I agree with that. I second that.
Just to be clear, Bobby Joe is the head of human resources for the city, right? So as we're looking to hire somebody for the city, maybe somebody with human resources experience might prove to be a little bit valuable. I'm just, as I think about that out loud and say it out loud so that people hear that we want to remove somebody who role and who we pay for in the capacity of human resources is somebody that we don't want on this committee.
so,
And my motion to that, I mean, my response to that is, I thought we were gonna add either Sarah or Patty on.
okay, so as it is, there's currently a list of Joe Massey, Bobby Joe Green, Sarah Bowen, and Patty Du Bois. I personally, now Mike, I will definitely let you speak to this. Having worked with all of these people, having worked with Mike, having been an ardent defender of the city taxpayers, can say I feel completely comfortable with this list of employees being here, and I value their input. I don't think that they are going to skew our results into, these are people who are all, first of all, ultimately the city council is going to pick, but the council comes and goes. I have sat through here for 6 years, and so has Councilor Mayhew, and we're the only two that have sat here for 6 years, besides Mike. So I can say, while the council will make the final decision, the people who are going to be here long-term and who have been long-term in those positions, and these are not people, by the way, who completely agree with Mike all the time. They're going to know his strengths, they're going to know his weaknesses. I think it's a valuable list, and I would recommend that you keep it. Mike, did you have something to add?
Council Morris, thank you for the comments about our HR director. It is pretty important for her to be there. One way, if we're looking to hold down the total number, Sarah Bowen, our executive assistant, could always act as the intermediary between MMA and the search committee, so Sarah could have an opportunity as that staff person to sit in on the meetings, which she very much would like to do. And I think where I work with her every single day, she knows the insides and outs of the city manager's job as well as anyone, maybe better than anyone. She's important to have there, but she wouldn't necessarily have to be a quote-unquote voting member. She could be there as a staff person. So if it makes things easier to have 3 city employees, Sarah as a staff person, then that could allow for another member of the public. If you want to have at least 3 members of the public, or maybe even 4, I don't know.
Bill, just a question, a point of clarification. So if we have 6 members, well, we have, 6 members, well, 5 now, right? So if Erica's abstaining from this in this process, does that change the number of, like if you have 3 counselors, is that does that change anything? Like, so all of a sudden we have 3 counselors, we're now the majority of the voting city council on this matter. Does that have any play in this?
You're actually creating a public body here, but this public body is going to be meeting an executive session in essence, so the public itself will not be allowed in because everything that's being discussed is personnel, and also the applications for employment are confidential. And so that it's adding more counselors to it doesn't change the way this thing has to be structured. The key is that this is a personnel matter, and that the people who are members of it are able to keep that information confidential, because there will be people who have applied who certainly do not expect the fact that they're looking for work to be end up in the newspaper, for example. They might lose their employment they have in some other location. But anyway, to answer your question, adding more counselors to it doesn't make any difference. We've got a pretty good sized group here to begin with. Are you planning on having this entire group of reviewing all 70 of the applications, or is it going to be a core group with MMA going through this and cutting it down to a much smaller, manageable size?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
MMA is going to cut it down at least by half, I think.
Yeah, okay, because otherwise you'd be forever trying to get through, a large group trying to get through that many applications.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, so can we leave it as it is then and just add my name onto it? And I would also like to see Jay Coel as one of the public.
Well, then let's not leaving it as it is, Flavia.
Right. So that would be a discussion for next week. If you want to add yourself and make that motion now.
So didn't we have that motion for us to table this for next week? You guys said no.
Yep.
So that's why we're talking about it now.
Yep. We said we're going to pick the members of the public next week.
Right. We're not
not
going to
next
call
week,
a
on
special
September.
meeting. We'll pick the public, the 2 or 3 members of the
We'll
public.
finalize the
September
public
1st
members.
meeting.
Yeah.
So the motion on the floor
So-
right now is to remove Bobby Joe Green and to add Flavia. That's the motion currently on the floor.
All right. I'm going to ask for a roll call on that.
Okay.
Because Frank is the one does he still want to hold on that motion? Do you guys want to ask him?
Well,
Didn't have a second.
Well, he has an opportunity here to withdraw it if he wants.
Oh, I think my motion's out there, right, to add Flavia and drop Bobby Joe. Is that correct?
Yes.
that
Yes.
is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So my question for you is if you want to withdraw that and just keep it as it is and just add my name to it. So keep Bobby Joe and just add me.
No, I think I'm going to leave my motion just the way it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Counsel Morris,
No.
Counsel Olivera,
Yes.
Counsel Mayu,
No.
Counsel Foss,
No.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
The vote is 2 in favor and 3 opposed, so it fails.
Okay, so, because, is this the third time? Can I make a motion then?
Yep.
That we we designate Sarah as the staff as Mike requested. We leave Bobby, Joe, Joe, and Patty, and then we add Counselor Oliveira to the counselors, and we vote on the public, the September 1st meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
I second that.
Is there discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes?
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
No.
Counselor Foss?
No.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
The vote is 3 in favor and 2 opposed.
All right.
All right.
Next.
Okay.
Now we need to move it as amended.
Is there a
I
motion to
think.
move as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
that?
Are we ready for a roll call on this, everyone? Yes.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
No.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor and 1 opposed. Okay, that was easy.
I do think it's worth mentioning before we get to, let's see, because this is a resolution. Bill, what is my ability to line item veto?
None.
I thought it was just the budget. I couldn't do that in the charter.
No.
I do want to just let the council realize that we have 2 Republican members of the city council here, and you have 3 Democrats as committee members, so you really have not, you've kind of stacked this, so I hope when you do a better job when you pick the members of the public.
Hence why I voted against.
Yep.
Could put all of the council on.
All right. Resolution 191, 2020.
A resolution providing for police vehicle purchase approval.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion.
I've asked Deputy Chief Bill Bonney to be here tonight. Chief Massey's on vacation, and Bill, I think, can take it from here, or maybe open it up to questions you may have. This is not a patrol vehicle.
Sure.
Right.
So we're looking to purchase a 2020 Plymouth Voyager directly from Central Maine Motors. When and to the extent we can, we like to do business with companies that are within the city. And typically when we're purchasing police patrol vehicles, we can't do that because we don't get any bids from the local dealership because they don't deal in the types of vehicles that we use. In this particular case, Central Maine Motors does have a vehicle that would be very fitting for the purposes. When we've had a similar instance in the past, we've done the same thing, so we'd like to purchase direct from them to keep it within the city.
Councilor Frankie?
Would you explain what the special circumstances are to get a vehicle like this?
Well, with our detective vehicles, which is what this would be, we cycle through those vehicles just like we do the patrol vehicles. They need to be replaced. Because they're not out on the road 24/7, they're part of our criminal investigations division, they don't get as many miles and they don't get as much usage. So we don't replace them as often. The current one we're replacing, I believe, is a 2009. So it's been through 11 Maine winters and it's really ready to be retired. And so our criminal investigations guys are using the vehicles to go out and do investigations, respond to crime scenes, respond to search warrants. We typically would use something like this vehicle, the space in it to have equipment and or put evidence from a search warrant. The detective is going to drive it to and from scenes. He's going to drive it to and from investigations and meetings and etc. So we don't need the special equipment that we would have in a police package cruiser, which would be the reason that we could purchase directly from Central Maine here in Waterville.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call, please. I don't see any discussion.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Olivera,
Yes.
Counselor Mayu,
Yes.
Counselor Foss,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor Thomas.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Resolution 192, 2020.
A resolution providing for declaring a vacancy for city council seat in Ward 3.
Move to adopt.
Second?
What? No, we didn't. No. I don't think that there's going to be any discussion on this. It's procedural. We have the roll call, please.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Patty, how many people have taken out petition for the Ward 3 council seat?
1,
Just one. When are petitions due?
September 4th at 4:30 PM.
To be exact.
Okay.
All set?
Yep.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Olivera,
Yes.
Counselor Mayu,
Yes.
Counselor Foss,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor Thomas.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, Resolution 193, 2020.
A resolution providing for designating the polling place for the general election and regular and special municipal election to be held on November 3, 2020.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Olivera,
Yes.
Counselor Mayu,
Yes.
Counselor Foss,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
And discussion item. Continuation of outdoor dining beyond November 1st. And I believe Jennifer
And Erica Pila.
and Erica Pila are here to come talk to us about that, because that was their proposal.
I'm sure they'll be coming in.
Hey,
There
guys.
they are.
Welcome.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't hear anything said.
We're just opening the floor for discussion, so if you want to just kick it off and just give a kind of refresher of what your request was. And
Okay. So I'll start, and then I'll let Erica discuss it a little bit as well. What we would like to do is be able to have our outside dining year-round. So we don't know exactly what we're going to do with that space, because first I have to go to the state and ask them if they will extend outside dining into the 2021 season as well. But we're thinking we would like to do things, for example, Harvest Festival, maybe ice bar, somebody doing chainsaw ice sculptures, maybe with the fire department's approval, fire pits. Who knows? Lots of ideas. It all sort of depends on what you guys allow us to do, what the state allows us to do, and what you all are deciding as far as the parking situation in the parking lot, because we don't know if this is going to be a very short-term location, if this is going to be years before any construction's done in the parking lot, and so we need to know a little bit more in detail before we can decide what we're going to do. I'd love to put some sort of a permanent roof on for the winter time, at least. Maybe something that would be like a metal roof that possibly we keep up year round, possibly it's something we take down in the summertime, so that we can maybe put some sides on, maybe heat it a little bit. But we've got lots of ideas. We just need first to have a nod from you guys and let us know that we're gonna have space. Erica's first time speaking. And
favorite thing to
let
do.
her-
So, you know, me working, I'm at the tavern 24/7 most of the time. I listen to the community. I listen to the people that are coming in outside from the community. They love our outside dining. We stay open a little bit later in the summer than we do the winter, but they love the whole aspect of where it is. They love the way it looks when it's lit up. We aim for, sit-down dining, and I listen to what they want and I try to bring it. So I can bring more people to our community and keep our people in our community happily. The outside dining is a huge hit this year. It's beautiful at night. I think that if we can utilize that park and keep that, you know, in there and not tear it up, and you let us utilize it, we can sit down and come up with some great ideas, light it up for the winter. Outside there in the winter time, everybody shuts down. That, we can't bring anybody to the community.
Right.
It's like dead Waterville in the winter. I think we can bring more to the community. You know, light it up in the winter, make it Christmassy, put on maybe a temporary metal roof, because I do know in the summertime, they love the sun coming through. They love the openness. I'm told all the time, it does not feel like they're sitting in the middle of a parking lot. They love what we did with it. And I think that we work so well together, and we're open for ideas, and we listen to the community, that we can bring something that'll be pretty good.
Yeah, I'll say, I've complained to Mike about that park for the last 6 years, about how awful it always looked, because it was just a park full of weeds. And it does, it looks beautiful. And I'll say to you the same thing I've said to every other restaurant in town, every other business in town. I'm supportive of any creative idea like this, if that helps you, it helps us. I think it's a mutually beneficial thing. Jennifer, with regards to we just had a parking committee meeting. We have no money to redo the concourse at this time. So there is nothing going to be torn up there, at least for a while, because we don't have any money to do so. And one of the elements that's actually been brought into that discussion now, and I certainly support it, is do we, while we're doing that, look at on that back side of the concourse where you all are, and the you-know-who's, and the Indian restaurant, and Holy Cannoli, is bring out that sidewalk and actually make a true outdoor dining patio, which I think would be the smart thing to do if we're thinking long-term. Because
I feel a little bit differently.
Okay.
Because everybody has outside sidewalk dining. What makes our area any different? Any different than anybody else? I have people coming from hour away, 2 hours away, because they're told we have the best outside dining in Central Maine because of where it's located. So, I mean, I'm okay with that, but it's what we can bring with what we have in the park.
And I don't think this negates that. I think my point was really, I'm supportive. Anybody, I think we should be supportive. I'm looking at the restaurants on Main Street, trying to figure out how we're going to make sure their side of the sidewalk is as wide as the other side, to make sure that they're fair too. So, if you can figure out a way to get people there when it's cold, and particularly I've talked to Eric about wishing somebody would do some kind of like Harvest Fest or Oktoberfest for years. So
I think we could have a lot.
Certainly creative. I assume that you're here first because when you go to the state, you'd like to say, yeah, we went to the city council and they were supportive of the idea.
Yes.
Correct, absolutely. So before the parking committee had brought the city council the different options, I was involved in that, and I had suggested a different plan than the one that was voted on. It gave a lot more parking spaces, and I had suggested, let's start with a whole lot of extra spaces, and then let's work and make it look prettier. So if you go to Texas or some of these places where they have a longer outdoor season than us, obviously, but they have these huge outdoor malls, and you drive up to them and they make them look like little downtowns. There's streets you drive through, and there's outside dining in a lot of those, and it all looks really charming and cute. And what my suggestion was before the city council voted on the plan that they chose and selected, I said, let's make the back side, the concourse side, look like a main street. Why are we just making it an afterthought, a throwaway? Like, let's make it charming and cute, and that people, when they pull into the parking lot, yeah, the parking lot's a parking lot, but that's what it's for. But what they're looking at then is the back side of Main Street, which would then look more like a charming Main Street. So I think we could really make it, if everyone that is a stakeholder worked together, I think we could make a better plan than the plan that was selected. But I wasn't here to argue that point. I was out of town when that vote happened, and it, you know, I'm only one voice, so at the time.
And you're here for the park tonight anyway. Yeah. Counselor?
So thank you guys for coming down and presenting. We have, I think you two have found the silver lining to COVID as far as Waterville, Maine is concerned. So thank you for your creativity, your steadfastness, overcoming all the hurdles that you've done. I had the enjoyment of having my first dinner there Friday night, excellent food. And I agree, Erica, sitting there, you don't feel like you're sitting in a parking lot. You know, I'm looking at the tops of the buildings, we've got the trees, we've got the overhang that you guys put up. I think we as a city council should give these two fine ladies the head nod that they need to go to the state, make sure that your liquor, whatever hurdles you got to get over there, and then we start having an honest conversation about the future of how that all comes together down there.
And thank you for allowing us that space. We greatly appreciate it.
You guys are making it, so.
I'm certainly supportive of doing whatever we can over this year. You know, I think you have experience with municipal government, and there is no money to redo the concourse at this point. Chances are that money is going to be borrowed. I think the next time we're going out for bond is 2 years from now, and we both know a whole lot will change in that plan between now and 2 years from now. There's going to be new people on the council, there'll be a new mayor, new city manager. So I mean, I would urge caution about getting too far out ahead, because the rug can be pulled out from under you by, you know, future city government.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if we came up with some sort of agreement that would protect you moving forward, that was, you know, amenable to everybody, that would be a good thing. But I do think that the plan we approved really was just something to send out to bid to get an idea of how much this is going to cost, a general idea of how much redoing the concourse will cost, and I don't think it really locked us into any specific, it didn't lock us into any specific design at this point, and I guarantee it will change over the next 2 years.
So is it possible that you all could revoke the vote on that plan and just say that we're going to leave the plan open instead of keeping the plan that was voted on as, yes, this is the plan we're going forward with?
Well, we're not locked into actually building that,
Okay.
I don't believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, just a
No, it's,
recommendation.
as the parking committee stated the other day, it's a very fluid situation right
Right.
now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Councilor Franklin and then Councilor Mayhew.
I think Ms. Bergeron raises a good point that it's really, we should take this as an opportunity to think about how to really present the entrance to Main Street, and since we're worried about parking as well, maybe it's time to rethink the way we're going about this. We're a couple of years away before we're actually going to be able to do anything, be able to afford to do anything in the concourse. So let's open this for, I think, further discussion, see if we can involve some of the other merchants and come up with a plan that makes the city look better, expands parking, and creates the kind of destination that the mayor's been calling for years.
Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank both Erica and Jennifer for being here. I think you both have some amazingly innovative mindsets when it comes to the hospitality industry. And that's my wheelhouse as it is yours. And we all know what the pandemic has done to our industry. We're the front line bearers of that. We're in the trenches, the front line of that. And you know, I'm proud of the city of Waterville for what, and the city council for coming forward, you know, during a really horrible pandemic and the state leveling a lot of different restrictions and really handcuffing a lot of our hospitality industry to a certain point where, you know, they didn't know if they could see anything with the overhead that they had, the investment that we have to put forward to put safeguards in for the pandemic, as all of hospitality industries are doing, out of savings, you know, the dwindling savings that they had by not having the doors open. So anything that we can do in that area, in the concourse, to expand the sidewalks, I do believe that other merchants should be involved in this. I do believe in the sidewalk expansions everywhere. When it comes to the service center of Waterville, I think all the patrons and all the business stakeholders in the area should be taken into consideration, but I also am thrilled about what has happened in that little weed-infested park in the concourse that you guys have just absolutely made into an oasis. You know, this is like an oasis in a desert, so to say, in the back of a parking lot in the back of Main Street, where nobody in their right mind would even be able to imagine that something could be enhanced to that degree, and you have enhanced it 100 times over. And with you, both of you, with your creativity and your innovativeness is just off the charts. I have to tell both of you that. And you know, your business has been successful, and your patrons and your clientele are increasing, and it's because of those mindsets that you guys are so successful. And I just applaud you, and I applaud the industry and everybody in this, and we're all working together to get you to the same goal.
It's nice that you can actually get a drink at this oasis in a desert. You know, usually they don't exist.
So
you know?
for the sake of what you guys need, I mean, clearly the council is supportive of this particular endeavor. I think Councilor Frankie brought up a great point about the larger scale thing that I hope we follow through with. For now, do you need anything particularly from us for you now to go speak to the state, or I mean, anything formal?
I think you have to extend our outside dining through 2021 is what we would need.
Okay.
Put that on the agenda.
So can we put that on the next agenda?
Mike?
And that'll obviously just be contingent on your ability to obtain what you need to do so.
Well, I think you have to approve it before I can go to the state.
Right.
So,
I think what you're trying to say is that we make the contingency of the resolution dependent on their ability to.
Well, no, meaning, we'll pass it,
Okay.
saying they can, but their ability to legally do so is gonna be contingent upon their ability.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I want to be able to go to the state saying, our city council is extremely supportive of this plan.
They've passed
So,
it. If we can.
And honestly, you guys have been phenomenal. So, I mean, as far as any city goes, I don't think there's been a more supportive council.
Great.
Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. All right, super.
Thank you.
Sydney wants that for his campaign material.
You too.
All right. So, I guess that we can't really vote on it right now. I thought there was actually going to be something to vote on tonight, but we will do it at our next meeting. But
certainly will.
in the meantime, if you need a reference, just give me a call.
Okay.
And I assume whatever action we might take would apply to anyone who does outdoor dining, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think
if we
we
have
would,
a
just
list
extend the
of
whole
those
thing so
people
everybody
that
can
we
outdoor.
reach out to and
Yeah.
let them know we're having this discussion.
Correct.
I don't have
Along with possibly abutting businesses.
Yeah, because, I mean, the point is that Jen's got to go back and make sure the liquor license is going to be intact in 21. If it's not, then this is all kind of a moot point. You know,
Yeah,
but if it
we
is,
pass
then.
it, it's passed for everybody.
Right.
And it's up to them to take care of
Right.
their other issues.
Well, I think specifically for us, because we have to cross the road, there might be other businesses that
Right,
don't
Silver
have
Street
that
would still benefit
restriction.
from the outside, the
Right.
expansions, things like that,
Yep.
so.
I think, yeah, I think
Cancun,
it's because we have to cross the road.
Proper Pig.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
About this.
Thank you.
No. Okay,
We're going to come back.
thank you.
Okay. Are there any counselor updates? Council?
And I don't know where to direct this, so I'll leave it in your lap, Mr. Mayor. Is there a mechanism that we need to inject to bring us all back under the same roof as far as council meetings?
Yeah, I mean, the plan, I would prefer that we're all meeting in the same room together here. I don't know why we're not at this point, but I realize that there's people who don't feel comfortable. But I think the council would, the mechanism would be the council would have to vote on that.
Okay.
Right, I made a few phone calls about that matter today. And so it's really, I think possibly we should put it on the agenda for the next meeting as just a discussion item to have a chance to talk about it first before we put it on as something to vote on.
Okay.
So people can express their thoughts about whether we want to start requiring people to come in person again, and if there's going to be exceptions to that, and, or, you know, for example, would we require masks if we're going to do that? Those kinds of things. I think it's certainly, I mean, it is ultimately, it's up to the entire council to decide how we run our meetings, so at some point we need to have that discussion.
Patty, can you put that on the next meeting?
As
for
a discussion item?
Yes, please. Thank you. That's all I had.
Council?
I want to be careful here, but this has occurred to me a few times in the last few days. Mike, is there still a personnel? I mean, at one point we had a committee that give you a job review, performance review. And this is where I'm going with this. You're only going to be around for the next 3.5 months, so I'm wondering if there should be a committee established to, what is it that we want Mike to accomplish over the next 3.5 months? What do we want him to leave behind for the next incoming city manager in terms of putting things in writing? I mean, especially if we end up with somebody coming in from outside, you know, making sure all the information that they're going to need to have access to has been packaged in a neat little pile for them. And so I don't know if we should establish if there's still a personnel committee, or if we should.
Last time Mike had a review was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a while ago, but I
Dana
like your
Boucher
idea.
was here, that's how I remember.
I do, because I think it's important for the council to know which projects are short-term, medium-term, long-term. Concourse redesign probably is falling into a long-term category, but there are other things that are more short-term. And so
Well,
I'd be
things
happy
like
to meet with a group of 3 of you, maybe.
Yeah, and like things like a list of contacts for certain projects, you know, people that you were going to need to be in touch with. And I mean, Mike's still going to be around, so we're luckily going to have that, still have access to him, but this stuff should all be, there should be a binder for whoever the new person is. That's sort of a go-to where they know to look for information. Plus, we should set goals for things that we want Mike to wrap up before he finishes up his time here.
Yeah, I think it would be like, we haven't had one in a while. You know, you did the manager kind of the update, and you had a
Project
the
list.
project list. So I mean, I think that would be a good opportunity, because I know some of the things have kind of have fallen off of it, but we've added now, like, you know, the bricks downtown, like, so just little things like, and you know, maybe at that point you can put, you know, key contacts and, you know, 4 or 5 bullets of what's active and what's going on these projects. You know, the RFQ down, you know, on Hedda Falls is, where's that stand? I haven't heard anything about that for a while. So, you know, Hathaway Building, you know, where's that stand? You know, like just little things like that I think would be helpful for us to now, let's update that and start talking about that at least one meeting a month, you know, as we move forward and whatnot.
I had that on my list for manager's report tonight, project updates, but I never got around to finishing it. I was off Friday afternoon yesterday and this morning, so I just got back at 1 today. So at your next meeting, I'll have that project list all updated. You can look at that, and then we can decide how to talk further about, okay, let's go into more detail about each one of these projects and what's the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
What are those key things, key people, like you say, that we need to not lose track of? So, at your next meeting, I'll have that project update list. Let's start with that.
And I'd like to interject, I know a lot about those projects, being 6-year veteran on this. I'd like to be included in that.
We'll see.
Are there any other council updates? Community notes. Community notes is a time where if there's something you would like to speak about that was not already spoken about tonight, now would be the time to do it. Come on in.
Okay, so I want to start off by saying I'm extremely grateful that you gave us this park, and it has made us thrive, especially with COVID, not knowing where we were going to end up after being closed for 3 months. It's a little scary in my shoes. Having the park, I do utilize the lamp posts. I plug, and you know, as soon as it starts to get dim, I plug my outside lights into the lamp post. I did have permission. We have live music 3 nights a week that plugs into the lamp post. So about a month ago, I wanted to give back to the city, thanking you guys for allowing us to have the park, allowing us to utilize those lamp posts and use your lights. I have tried 2 attempts to make a donation, and nobody was comfortable taking the check that I wrote. So I am here to present it tonight, even though it's a month old. I wasn't sure who I can give it to and who would accept it.
Is this like a general donation, Mike?
Sarah told me that you came in with a check and she wasn't comfortable taking it
Yeah.
today. Well, I think what we'd like to do is to look at the electric bills, because you have been using electricity there.
Yeah.
And I can get back to you about what that amount is and
Okay.
reimburse us for the electricity use as a start.
Well, or she could make a donation to the Riverwalk, or, I mean,
Operation Hope.
yeah, I mean, there's plenty of things through the
Yeah.
city that.
Yeah, whatever you suggest. I wasn't quite sure. I had kind of just,
I'll
my
get-
first time doing this, so I said, you know what, I want to give back for what they gave to us.
It's really great.
Right.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
why don't I get back to you about what the electric charge is, and then Erica, if you want to make a donation to anything else, we can talk about that.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Because
Thank you.
I think this will more than cover the bill. I don't know if they specifically go on the certain lamp posts.
That we started checking into that this afternoon, but didn't quite get all the way through it. So,
Perfect.
yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Because we wanted to make sure that we more than covered what we're using.
Yep.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I don't know if I might be off base a little bit. Are we turning down a $2,000 donation to any?
No, I think he's just trying to figure out where to direct it.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand where
Well, if
our thought process.
if we accept that, it just goes into general fund revenues.
Yeah.
It might be better for it to be dedicated to a specific thing.
Okay.
And I'm okay
And
with
before
whatever
we
you
start
suggest.
taking money that could be construed as rent
Yep.
for a public space,
Yep.
I think we need to have more discussion about
Okay,
that.
all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yep.
Absolutely. Great.
Okay, well,
Okay.
we'd like to make the
Yep,
donation,
just-
but once again, we're going to walk away.
And you can just let me know.
I'll be back to you.
I will take a
Thank you
check
so
for
much.
anything.
I will take a turkey club with some French fries.
Perfect.
I like Moxie.
Oh, yeah, something I don't have yet, right?
I bet you will.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so
At least
much.
one
Thank you.
bottle.
Is there anybody else for community notes?
Mayor, if I may, we're in the process of starting to accept absentee ballot requests.
Yeah.
We've actually gotten about, I'd say we've got 500 already. So
Great.
we're gearing up, obviously, for a very big election cycle. So folks that are interested in voting by absentee ballot, we're actually encouraging that. We have social distancing guidelines that we have to follow for the November 3rd election, which will limit the gathering to 50 in the polling location. So obviously, you can't push, 8,000 voters through a polling location 50 at a time in 13 hours. So we're encouraging people to vote by absentee ballot. The applications are available on the city's website. We're also encouraging folks, if they'd like, they can give us a call. We've spoken with many people in the last couple of days who are very concerned by what they're hearing through the national media about delays in postal service and that sort of thing. We have a new drop box that's located outside of the City Hall main entrance. That's a secure drop box specifically designated for absentee ballot returns that only city staff has keys to. So we're encouraging folks to not worry about return mail, but just use the drop box out front. So, with that said, I think every election, I'm going to try to give updates, every meeting, I'll try to give updates on what's happening with the election and try to keep people informed and calm everyone down.
When do you actually start mailing ballots out, because they're not finalized yet?
We're accepting requests now, and the ballots will become available the first week in October, 30 days before the election. So we would anticipate a big push mailing the first week in October. So we're telling people, if you've requested a ballot, don't be looking for it till the second week in October, because there'll be probably a delay in mailing to receive it 3 or 4 days after we've mailed it. So mid-October, they should be seeing that first wave of ballots in their mailboxes, and then they can drop them off at the drop box at City Hall or pop them back in the mail to us. The deadline to return the ballots is 8 p.m. on election night as of now.
Should we be looking at a second polling place given that you're constrained down?
I would say no, because what happens with a separate polling place, you have to split it up by wards or districts. And if someone moves within the city across the street, they can in fact go to their polling place across the street and find that they have to go across town to vote. We had multiple polling places in the city many years ago, and it was difficult for the voters and difficult for us to administer.
Yeah, remember those days.
So based on the July 14th primary, we had 75% turnout by absentee ballot. 25% in person, which is an exact flip of what we've had in the past.
Right.
I anticipate that going forward for November. So what that would mean is about 2,000 people voting in person on election day.
When does
We can
in
easily
person-
do
Hang
that.
on, Counselor Frankie's had his hand up for a while.
We can easily do that, but people have to be prepared to wait in line for a while because we won't have room for a lot of people within the polling place with only 50 allowed with the 50 workers as well, with 25 workers included in that 50 gathering.
That was my question, Patty, is have you thought about, or have you made arrangements for what to do with the people who are waiting outside, how to set up lines and cones and all of that kind of stuff?
Yes, we've begun planning for lines around the buildings. There'll be a line for check-in, and then there'll be a line for voter registration as well. We're working on safety precautions in that vein. I'm concerned about the traffic going through when people are lined up outside the building, especially when it gets dark at 4 in the afternoon. So again, you know, these are difficult circumstances. We're trying to administer, you know, a very difficult process under almost impossible circumstances. So we're in the process of planning it all, but the more people can take advantage of absentee voting, the less push there'll be on election day. So we're really trying to encourage the absentee
When does
avenue.
in-person absentee voting?
In-person absentee voting is also going to start the week of October 13th. Well, in-person? Okay, in-person absentee voting is going to start October 5th, downstairs in the front street room, downstairs at City Hall basement. But again, we've got social distancing guidelines, so we're only going to be able to vote 2 people at a time, and we'll have lines of people keyed up out the door, so I expect we'll have lines out the door. So the easiest, most convenient way for people to take advantage of absentee voting is to download an application, fill it out, and mail it to us, or call us. Don't wait in line at City Hall. Call us, we'll mail it to you. Just get it back to us by 8 p.m. on election day.
Patty, I was speaking to a landlord recently who has rented to a lot of college students over the years. None of these students live at the current residence, and yet he's received a couple absentee ballots in the mail at that place. Where we've had college students gone since February, they're coming back for 3 months and then leaving. What protocols do you have in place to make sure that they are actually residents here and are qualified residents and are registered currently and that they're
Right.
currently here in town?
Well, first of all, anything being received right now might be an absentee ballot application. It's not an absentee ballot because they're not available. There are a lot of community organizations that send out those to current resident or whatever.
Okay.
Or the previous registration person at that address. That's not coming from our office. So with the COVID guidelines and all that we have to deal with that, we are verifying residence addresses for every absentee request that we receive.
Great.
The people that are requesting currently that might have a Colby address, we're confirming with them that, is this your current address or was this last semester? If it's last semester and you're coming back to campus, we're going to reject this request, send us a new one when you've reestablished on campus. Some people are studying abroad. Those folks that are studying abroad can request an absentee ballot at their previous address because they intend to return here. So that's allowed as well. So we are scrutinizing all the absentee requests that we receive. We're verifying residence addresses with everyone. The folks that are coming back to campus have to update their registration this year to their current residence address if they wish to continue to vote here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I know when they left in February, and they've been gone since, and they're coming back for only 3 months. The newspaper reported that Colby had told them that only 10% of their student body were Maine residents. So that's about 250 kids. So it'll be interesting to see how many ballots we get. That's my community note. Mike, I think we're ready for manager's report.
I just passed out this notice, so beginning next Monday is a virtual town meeting on the Bill Grant, the Main Street project, online. You can go online any time of the day and take a look at this expose of what's going to happen on Main Street, the design plans and everything around it. So that online meeting, online thing runs through September 4th. Okay? It's really the last way we can get the word out to as many people as possible. Certainly if people have questions, Maine DOT or the city are willing to meet with people as necessary to talk about any concerns they have. We've had a number of public meetings about this. We're right at the very, very end of the design process. So by September 17th, by the terms of our contract with the federal government, we are required to have the design plans, specifications complete, done, finished, so that it could go out to bid this fall. The way construction pricing is looking, it's looking like this fall is a good time to do it. Same thing that happened with our bond rates, our bond bids. We think is going to be the same, not quite to that extreme with construction, but it seems like the pricing is going to be much better construction-wise than it was a few months ago. So the thinking right now is to put it out to bid in October. So anyway, this is the last chance for people to take another look at the project. Do you have a question? If so, please contact us or DOT. All the info is on here.
Mike, the only question I have is this council expressed fairly universal concern about that one area where the sidewalks were significantly wider in front of the Colby building as opposed to the opposite side of the street with the restaurants there, and all of those restaurant owners and building owners would like a look at that as well. How do we get on top of that?
You had asked me that last week, and I was gone Friday, Monday, and came back after lunch today. But I did communicate with DOT.
Great.
And they're going over that design question, so I'll have that answer.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
You're going to put that on the city Facebook page to be shared?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we certainly will. We just got this today.
Okay.
Last item on my list is just an update on tax collection. You know, with the way things are going, with the virus and the economy, we've been concerned about liens and non-payment and people being past due, but the numbers really are not bad at all. Matter of fact, better than last year in some respects. So in July, because the tax due date is June 30, so in July we send out a certified mail saying, Mike Roy, you didn't pay your taxes on June 30. We're just letting you know that if it's not paid by August something, there will be a lien placed. And last year we had 668 of those notices going out. This year, 619. So quite a bit less than last year. That's good news.
I don't know if you saw the story in the paper, but remember I speculated about the reason that revenue sharing wasn't that bad was because the extra taxes people were paying on the extra unemployment. So there was a story in the paper that said just that. And so now that that has been off the table for a few weeks, I'd be cautious about what our revenue sharing payment's going to be for the first quarter, you know, now that people aren't collecting income tax on that extra unemployment.
And the number of liens that we filed, actually we have filed them so far this August, 223. Last year was 247. So fewer liens this year than last year. You might be right, Councilor Thomas. We'll have to keep an eye on it, but for right now, the picture doesn't look bad. Yeah. Those are my items.
Councilor Frankie.
Just a quick question, Mike, going back to the Bill Grant. The final version has to go out September 17th. Is there any way to change part of the bill grant, or is the meeting next week simply informational?
I want to make sure I heard it correctly. Is there any way that,
I think his question is how much can actually still be changed about the design of this project?
oh, not much can actually be changed? Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not in charge of the design. There is a month left. Here we are, the 18th, by the 17th, so almost exactly a month. But really, the design is, in many ways, quite final. But I shouldn't say that it's impossible to make further modifications, but
Well, and there's still things that would fall under our, like, for example, Silver Street. Like, even once this is done.
Oh, right.
We can still make decisions about whether Silver Street is
Yeah.
closed or open, or which direction the traffic goes, or...
yeah, on some of the side streets, that's right. That aren't technically part of the federal project. Those things are still open. Questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, is that a motion to adjourn, sir? All right, we're adjourned, thanks.